Welcome to this meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee for January 27th, 2020. I'm Paul Krikorian, joined by my colleagues, Mr. Price and Mr. Kretz, and we're ready to begin, and Mr. Blumenfield, and we're ready to begin today's meeting. Members, I would propose on items 6, 7, 8, and 9 the following consent recommendations. On item 6, I would recommend that we concur with the action of the Information Technology and General Services Committee. Number 7, recommend approval of the CAO's recommendations. Number 8, recommend approval of the recommendations of the City Attorney. And number 9, approve the recommendations of the Office of Finance. Those would be consent candidates, but for cards. So I'm going to go ahead and begin now with our with our multi-item public speakers, starting with Mr. Previn, followed by Mr. Greenspan and Mr. Herman. Mr. Previn, welcome. Go ahead and begin, Mr. Previn.
I'm just getting my page. Thank you. It's Eric Previn from Studio City. And today, as usual, a number of closed sessions, one which caught my attention because it's the Department of Transportation that there's some allegations that of disability discrimination and failure to accommodate. I just hope that it does not also include sexual harassment, because I noted on the Claims Board agenda today at item 11, Isabel Villegas is on the agenda. That was the, believe it or not, the revenge porn, LAPD-based, horrifying stack of bad behavior. Just following a week after the Marianne Bunag LAPD retaliation lawsuit, she was also sexually harassed. I just want to make sure that we're bringing these out into the light so that the council members know that there needs to be a change effectuated at LAPD, that we can't keep just settling people off in the quiet recesses of the city for these things that in any other sphere, including the real world, we see people being jettisoned from their jobs and strong systemic changes coming forward, whereas here we bury them and hide. It's unacceptable. I also note that we have a helpful law firm from Europe called Ashurst LLP being re-empowered to $2.25 million, up from 1.5. They were going to split the 1.5 with Loeb LLP, but as you know, conflict. And it looked like you were going to move forward because you waived the conflict, but now it says that they stepped out, so nonetheless more money. So I would watch that, scrutinize it extremely carefully. It's $32 million just for consulting fees price for the Parker Center, major project. But this is just inside the scheming and planning phase. So it's rare to have an outsider completely in the loop on that. And then I have to say, you've got the refund to Westfield, which smells to high heaven, Blumenfield. Obviously, everybody loves Westfield Topanga owner LLC, but what about Westfield Topanga owner LP? Because they're the ones who we gave a liquor license to, and we give the advance. What we do is we advance their.
Thank you.
Well, I get a minute on general public comment.
I'll take general public comment at the end of the meeting.
You don't want me to roll right into it now?
No, I want you to wait until the end of the meeting. Mr. Greenspan?
Thank you.
Mr. Greenspan is not here. Mr. Greenspan has waived his time to speak. Mr. Herman?
That's right, my nigga. Here I am, talking about the liquor pusher on item number 2, Mr.
Stop his time.
What the fuck?
Mr. Herman, I'm going to instruct you now. You're going to stick with agenda items. We will not be taking
I was on item number 2, sir.
I'm giving you an instruction. Go ahead and start his time.
Well, before the dumb nigga interrupt me on the liquor pusher West End on CD10 regarding uplifted sidewalks, you dumb nigga. Improve the sidewalks, says Janice Harms, with the ADA as we discussed with the county. Reach an agreement with the city of Los Angeles whereby the county will perform sidewalk repairs adjacent to the Hall of Administration, in which I complain over and over about the fucking conditions of your sidewalk and streets and those trip and falls. I hope the lawyers in here sue your fucking ass upside down because you haven't been spending that $30 million a year to settle Woods versus Los Angeles, you fucking liquor-pushing city of sin. Then, regarding disability discrimination, well, I know what it's like. See in my hand? This is discrimination. Solely to construe the idea that I'm offensive. No, it's just a sign, nigga. The same nigger sign you've been holding on your back ever since you retaliated against homeless people with disabilities. So don't tell me I'm off topic, you dumb motherfucker. Don't you know that I'm trying to start construction for 2020 in Ms. Hahn's area to correct discrimination? But you, dumb nigga, who run the second largest city, the biggest budget, cannot fix the homeless crisis with disability discrimination, and that's why you're such a stupid, dumb motherfucker, whoever that asshole is. But on January 24, 2020, I went to the State Board of California under the 2CEDFG for the record BOT meeting, and I told the bar how these three individual motherfuckers continue to hamper my free speech. Fuck you!
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Please take a seat and remain quiet for the rest of the meeting. All right, members, I had already given you my recommendations on items 6, 7, 8, and 9 for consent approval. Are there any questions or comments on those matters?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if it's possible, I'd love to, the number 8, that it's a 50% increase, and I didn't really, from the instructions, understand what the purpose of it was. I'd like to hear just very briefly why the increase occurred.
Okay, we can do that. Is outside counsel present on that matter? You know what, let's go ahead and hang tight. We'll take that up before we go into closed session then, but on 6, 7, and 9, any questions or concerns with the recommendations I gave? Then it will be the action of the committee on item 6 to concur with the action of the Information Technology and General Services Committee, on item 7 to approve the CAO's recommendation, and on item 9 to approve the recommendation of the Office of Finance. That'll bring up item number 8. So let's go ahead and bring up item 8, please. Mr. Blumenfield.
Great. Now, just wanted to, it's a 50% increase in the legal services budget. It kind of jumped out at me as a big increase, and I didn't understand if it was the scope of work, an increase in the billing rate. What changed to make such an increase happen?
Sure. My name is Sean Torres with the City Attorney's Office. There has been no change in the billing rate. There's no change in the scope of work. It's purely based on where we are in the procurement process right now for the project. The original budget had assumed that the entire procurement for the project would conclude by the end of the last calendar year in 2019. The procurement is still proceeding, and we still require the specialized P3 legal expertise of Ashurst to help us conclude the procurement.
You're saying it's a timing issue, not a total value issue?
Well, timing in the sense that the procurement is still proceeding and they are on a billable hour basis. And so as we have proceeded with meetings and with the evolution of the documents, we still need their assistance.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to say about it. It just jumps out as problematic, and that it should be based on the project, not on the time. If it's based on the time, then we're not managing it right. That's what it feels like. I trust our city attorney in terms of how this works. It's a big jump.
Right. So it's not a unlike some legal contracts which are based just on achieving certain milestones. Our contract is on a billable hour basis. Like I said, the original schedule had assumed that the entire procurement will be completed by last calendar year. And if it had concluded within the last calendar year, then the original budget estimate would have held. But the procurement is still proceeding. And so for that reason, BOE as project manager requested reallocations of funds within existing line items to cover anticipated consulting costs to continue to help us through the procurement process.
Tim, if I could jump in, to help clarify, Tim McWilliams, Assistant City Attorney. So in addition to the time factor, there were certain assumptions made by outside counsel on their level of involvement and the intensity of their level of involvement, the number of meetings. Certain assumptions went into their original estimate. As the project has played out, the timeline has increased, as Sean says, which requires attendance at many more meetings that they had anticipated. And frankly, their scope of their work probably has been, it has in fact been tweaked and expanded a little bit as the process has moved along at the request of both our office and various stakeholder clients within the city family.
All right, Mr. Price?
Yeah, and I just share my colleagues' concern about the large increase. I mean, so was there a challenge? What's happening in the process that all of a sudden is making it longer? Is there a challenge or
Well, no, there
scope is
has,
still the same? What's,
I wouldn't say that, no, there isn't a challenge, but, the project itself is exceptionally complex, and it's the first of its kind for the city for a social infrastructure project like this. And so in dealing with a complicated project with novel issues that the city project team has not had to encounter before, things are just taking longer than originally anticipated, including things like evaluating the proposals that were received, issues regarding how to apply the city's existing policies in a public-private partnership procurement such as this, which, as I said, is novel to the city. And so as we wrestle with these complex issues, as Tim mentioned, there are sort of time, it has taken longer to deal with it than it would in a normal project.
thank you.
All right, any other questions, members? All right, if there's no other questions, is there any objection to proceeding? Seeing none, it'll be the action of the committee to approve the recommendations of the city attorney. Thank you very much. Okay, that will take us to our closed session items. So we'll go ahead and begin with item. Does the city attorney have any requests for priority? Then we'll go in numerical order, starting with item number 1. Okay, let's call item number 5, please. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry, not item number 5, item number 10.
Item number 10 is the Price-Blumenfield motion relative to instructing the chief legislative analyst and the city administrative officer, with the assistance of any necessary department, to report on the methodology used to establish city permit fees and permit fees associated with the sidewalk and park vending program, including a healthy cart permit, a location-based permit, and a subsidized permit fee for vendors facing financial hardship.
All right, this is advancing a motion forward. I don't think there's any presentation that's going to be necessary on this unless members would like a presentation or have questions or concerns. I did want to recommend a couple of additions to the recommendations. I'd like to, in addition to the recommendation to instruct the CLA and the CAO to report on methodology used to establish the city permit fees and permit fees associated with a sidewalk and park vending program, with options to establish a healthy cart permit, a location-based permit, and a subsidized permit fee for vendors facing financial hardship. I'd like to also ask that we instruct the Bureau of Street Services to report on the range of enforcement activities that they have undertaken so far, and any unique enforcement circumstances which have emerged in the vending marketplace that were not anticipated by the current policy, along with recommendations for the staffing required to adequately protect permitted vendors from unpermitted vendors and enforce the rules for the public right-of-way. And then third, I'd ask that we request that the city attorney and the Bureau of Street Services report on whether the existing city and state laws regarding vending allow the city to curtail vending activities that involve the setup of tables and chairs and the hiring of wait staff in the public right-of-way, and further report on whether appropriate sanctions and staffing are in place to successfully curtail those activities. Is there any concern or question about proceeding that way? All right. There being no objection, then, that will be the action of the committee, and that will take us to general public comment, starting with Mr. Previn.
Thank you, and I appreciate you taking the restaurant owners and setting up on the sidewalks and driveways seriously. But you asked for a report back, I guess, but this has been going on, and it's getting worse and worse. They're all over the place in our area, and you know, Councilmember Krikorian, all over, you know, Riverside, Magnolia, as you go further north, Owen, Van Victory, they're everywhere. So, you know, it's good that you're looking at it. Now, in terms of the letter, thank you for the letter to Harvard Westlake that our neighborhood's just getting word of. And I'm going to look at it very carefully. We appreciate your stepping up on behalf of some residents, in particular those who you've been meeting with, evidently, because we were under the impression that we were going to have an open public meeting. There were several closed-door Harvard Westlake meetings, but let's leave it roll over for a cycle to see what specifically. I know some things looked good in there, but we always have to look very carefully when Mr. Hale is carefully carving the policy for the private donors. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you. Mr. Herman.
Let my stupid ass sit over here, because nothing but niggers in this facility who don't accommodate people with disabilities. So I brought you your favorite sign, the one that protects the rights of every citizen from discrimination. Turn your chair around, Paul Bloomfield. That's what we pay your dumb ass to understand, that this is protected speech. This is protected speech. January 24th, State Board of California BOT meeting. We talked about jackass attorneys from City Hall East who keep fucking hampering our First Amendment. Keep interrupting us when we speak. Keep telling us that we're out of order. Keep telling us that we don't have no right to talk about the issues involving why a budget like the City of Los Angeles continue to hire their criminal element friends, jackass attorneys who represent the city in a wrongful way. Suck cock, you bunch of bitches.
All right, there being no other business before the committee, we are adjourned.